Siyata Dishmaya. In Parashas Mishpatim, we have a parasha. וכיכה איש שסבדו את אמתו בשבט ומת תחת ידו, נקום ינקה. וכי ינצו אנשים, if two people get into a fight, ונוקפו אישו, or there was a pregnant woman they beat up, and the babies come out and die, so they deserve death. ולא יעשון, if it says it won't be any danger in the woman, but the babies died, anosh yanesh, you have to pay the value of the babies. Kasher yashit ala bal ha'isha, the way the husband, when he demands in court, v'natan biflilin, he has to pay the way the court tells him to pay. If the woman will die, not the babies, the woman will die. You should give a soul in exchange for a soul. It's machloikes. Gemara in Sanhedrin, Mechilta, do you do is consider a tzicha and you kill the person, or it's mamoy. But that, if the wife died. What's a svara to be exempt from death? Because there's a rule, if somebody had the intention to kill one guy and then he killed another guy, so then he's exempt from death according to this opinion. And he has to pay his descendants the value of the person. How can you value a person? How much is being sold in the market? It's very hard. And the Torah continues. Ayin tachas ayin. Eye in exchange for an eye. Shein tachat shein. A tooth for an exchange of a tooth. Yad tachat yad. A hand in exchange for a hand. Regel tachat regel. A feet in exchange for a feet. And Rashi brings down the Gemara Mabekama, the beginning of a choivel in length, that ayin tachas ayin doesn't mean physically. It means money. It means money. There are countries like the Muslims, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and others still today. If somebody pokes somebody's eyes, you poke his eyes. Somebody steals, you cut his hand.
They do that in India, yeah?
In Iran, in Saudi Arabia? No. Not in Iran and Saudi Arabia, till today, that's what they do. Somebody steals, somebody took somebody else's eye, they cut his eyes. Tooth, they cut his tooth. Hand for hand. Kviyah tachas kviyah. Fire. Somebody gets burned, you burn him. Petza tachat petza. Chabur tachas chabur. Let's count how many cases the Torah gives down. Ayin tachas ayin, eye for an eye. Shen tachas shen, tooth for a tooth. Yad tachat yad, a hand in exchange for a hand. Regel tachas regel, a leg in exchange. All this is 4. Kviyah tachas kviyah, a burning skin against and flesh in exchange for that. Petza tachas peta 6. Chabur tachas chabur. And the Torah really meant that the goal of the Torah is to talk about money. Not physically, like some countries do, like the Saudi Arabia, Iran. No, it's money, it's value. And Rabbeinu Saadia Goyen in length, in the Ibn Ezra in length, they explain that it has to be money because you can never really get a complete payment eye for an eye. If somebody was an old man, couldn't see so well, the person sees better. Or he only took part of his eyesight, so how can he do eye for an eye? More poor and rich. So they said it's impossible to get a complete punishment and payment for eye for an eye. It has to be money, it has to be value. But we have chazal, we have tradition, and it means money. Rabbi Leibovich, the author of the Birkas Shmuel, he said, why did the Torah wrote in the language eye for an eye if it meant money? Let it say money, finish. And if we counted how many cases? 6, right? Eye for an eye, shen for shen. 7 cases. So many times saying the same thing. If it meant really money, it's enough to say one time. If it goes on and on, exactly, Kviyata goes in details, must be is bedavka. Why otherwise? Why the Torah wrote it so many times? 7 times? Comes the Ber and he says, the reason why the Torah wrote it so many times, to teach you the mida sadin. From really, the proper thing should be that when somebody pokes somebody's eyes, his eye has to be poked. But the Torah has rachmanus on the Jewish people, and he says you pay money. But really, the person that pokes somebody's eyes, he has to know the mitzad adin, his eyes should be poked. This is the ikar. The Torah wrote it in detail 7 times to tell you this is midas adin, which means what they do inside Arabia in Iran, that's midas adin. Just the Torah has rachmanus. Why? For example, somebody murders someone. Somebody murders someone. So what do we say? Another Jew's going to be murdered, so it'll be 2 Jews dead. That we don't say. We don't say this svara, if somebody murders a person, we don't say, listen, why 2 Jews should die? No. As the Maggid Mishnah brings down, that the neshama, the soul that is being murdered, cannot rest until it gets revenge. It's not only Goyal Adam, the family which are hot, they have to get back on the person himself, the soul. Like we know the story that they murdered a prophet, Zechariah Novi, in the temple. His blood was jumping. And they slaughtered hundreds or thousands of babies, and they didn't stop, they didn't relax. When somebody's blood is being spilled not proper, the soul is not rested until it gets revenge. It's something intrinsic with God created a human being. But, and somebody gets blemished, damaged, an eye, here we don't say that. Although mitzad adin, the Ber says, midas adin should be eye for an eye. And that's what the Torah wrote in such a way you have to know, this is midas adin. You have to do tshuva, and you have to feel that the eye should be taken out. Just the Torah doesn't want 2 Jews without an eye. So the Torah says that mercy, because it's not dead, it's not finished, not finito, just an eye, a hand, whatever it is, chabura, so then the Torah says pay money. So really it's a leniency in midas adin, but really mitzad midas adin is not so. So what do we learn from this? We learn from this that the Torah HaKadosh is teaching us that when somebody has a shalom damages another person, he has to know the mitzad adin, really he should get the same punishment what he did to him. What? It's only a mercy of Hashem that Hashem says he doesn't have to get punished the same level. But when mitzad adin, he has to get it. So it's a teachings on the levels of tshuva. How much a person in his level of tshuva, doing tshuva, he has to understand what he did. When you understand that the real midas adin, mitzad, the punishment should be the same, so then he gives a person the right proportion what punishment he should have been gotten. We see this leniency, the Rosh says, this leniency we see everywhere. For example, if somebody, let's say, cuts somebody's hands. So how you measure the cutting of somebody's hand, even with money, how do you measure it? So if I would tell a person, how much you willing to be paid to cut your hand? Nobody would be willing to pay $1 million. No money I will take in order to cut my hand. Nobody's going to do that. But what do? We go to a slave that his hand has to be cut. And we ask him, how much you willing to take money to cut it instead of with anesthesia, without anesthesia. But his hand has to be cut. Which means he knows his hand has to be cut no matter what. Question is, with pain or without pain? So how much is willing to pay in order to remove the pain? That's really the way we measure it. So comes the Rosh in Masechet Bobekam Perikah Choivel. He says, what kind of thing is that? The guy cut somebody's hands. He didn't ask him, can I cut your hand? And he just cut it. So really, the mida sadin should be that he should cut his hands too. Or how can you measure the money of somebody that's already needs to be, his hand has to be cut anyhow? And here was voluntarily, and here it's a must. So there's no really comparison. Comes the Rosh, and he says, the Torah was mekel and Shemos. The Torah was lenient in appraisals. We learn, ubir bizde'acher, that Yusham agav sode'acher. Comes the Rosh and says, veze av lekulon. This is a father for all Shemos. Not only if an animal ate an aruga, I measure above the whole field, not specific aruga. Shishim, kabe shishim, whatever it is. Also in all Shemos and chabonos and all those things, the Torah is lenient in appraisal. So we have a doubling. We have a double leniency. Number one, really, mida sadin, the hand of a person has to be cut off. He took somebody's hands, he poked somebody's eyes, he had to be tabaguna. Number two, even when I measure the value of the eye, I measure the value of the hand. I don't measure voluntarily how much a person is willing to be paid to cut his hands voluntarily, like you voluntarily cut somebody's hand. No. We measure a person has to be hands to be cut because the king said whatever he needed is sin. Who knows what? His hand is already decaying, has to be cut. He has gangrene. Whatever the story is, muhtam lamalchus. And the question is, how much are we willing to pay to remove pain, to cut it with anesthesia or without? So it's such a leniency here. Not only does it get punished in the same thing, even in the Shemos, the Torah is bona'av lekol ha-Shemos to have kula le-Shemos, kula ba-Shemos. So the question is why? Why? Imitzad adin, eye for an eye, and the Torah is mekel. The Torah goes on so far to mekel, to be sham, to appraisal as a slave that's going to be sold in the market, or somebody has to be muhtav lamalchus, being written to the kingdom to cut his hand. Why so much leniency? Why? This is a very important message I want to explain today. When somebody pokes somebody's eyes or cuts somebody's hand, what really happened here? Two things. Number one is another Jew's hand was cut off. Number two, the relationship of this Jew to God is being ruined because he cut a Jew's hand. Two things. One is benodon lamokoi. Number two is benodon lechaveroi. Benodon lechaver, which is man to man, the Torah was lenient. They don't want them two Jews to be hands cut off. The main goal of the Torah is to fix the relationship of a man to God. So to fix the relation of man to God, even if he's lenient in Shemos, he's lenient in appraisals, you still have to do tshuva, and tshuva. So it doesn't have to be the same measurement. And that's why the Torah was so lenient, double leniency, because the ikar is the fixing between you and Hashem. If somebody damaged another person, your animal damage, Shom Nogach, a person damaged, what is the main concern of the court? To fulfill the damage that the person's being damaged, or to fix your relation to Hashem? Your relation to Hashem. That's the main goal of the court. It's also to fulfill his fulfillment. But then we see leniency. The main thing is to fix between you and Hashem. This is the ikar. And that's why we find a lot of double leniencies in all those shumos, because the ikar when a person sins and he damage, is the ikar is tikkun ha'eloki, the tikkun between you and God, not tikkun medini, not the fixing of the country between people to people. Why? I want to give you another svara to it. Add a svara to it. Listen carefully, David Shlomo. Because if Chas v'sholem, if I damage you and you don't deserve to be damaged, can I damage you? No. So if you got damaged, must be you did some kind of sin that you deserve to be damaged. The problem is why megalgelin chovel dechayev, Hashem rolled an obligation through me. Why I had to damage you? It can be damaged in other ways. So my main problem was why me, the tshuva, why it came through me. But why you got hurt? Because you needed to tshuva. That's why you lost money, you lost your hands, somebody damaged you, a car accident, who knows what. Because you need the tshuva for your things. You have your own world, you have the tshuva for yourself. So the ikar is not why the guy got damaged, because he has his own thing. The ikar is to fix why the damage came through me, my sin between me and Hashem. That's the ikar, also him. So therefore, the Torah was very lenient in Shumot. What do you want to ask, David Shalom?
על הפרקי אבות של ידי הסכן, על
גולגולת
של פרעה. כל התכלית של פרעה זה, למה פרעה קיבל מכה? שתכלית שלו, הוא השליח של השם.
נכון.
מי התחיל הרע? פרעה התחיל הרע, או עם ישראל, טעות שלנו...
גם וגם. גם וגם. גם וגם. הכל מלמעלה. אם מישהו מקבל מכה, אז הוא עשה רע שהוא מקבל מכה, ואני עשיתי רע שבחרתי לתת מכה, ועשיתי רע שהצלחתי. הבנת? אז אני מקבל עונש על הבחירה שבחרתי לתת לך מכה, ואתה קיבלת מכה כי עשית עבירות, אז קיבלת מכה.
זה כמו השיר של הפסח.
חג עתיה. כן. אוקיי. מי מצליח?